Welcome back, language learners. Imagine you are standing in the future, looking back at an action that has been happening for a certain duration. That's what the future perfect tense allows us to do. It's like having a time machine in grammar. This tense is used when we want to emphasize the duration of an action that started in the past and is still ongoing at a specific moment in the future. It's not just about stating that something will happen, but rather how long it will have been happening by a certain point. This makes it unique and somewhat rare tense because we only use it in a very specific situations when the focus is on duration. For example, if someone has been living in London for 3 years, by the end of the year, we don't just say she will live in London for 3 years. Instead, we highlight the time spent in that action and say she will have been living in London for 3 years by the end of the year. See how this tense gives a sense of continuity and allows us to measure how long something will have been going on. That's the magic of future perfect continuous tense. Let's see the structure of this. This tense is composed of two elements: the future perfect of the verb to be, like will have been, and the present participle of the main verb plus ing. So these are the two main components. Here is an example. They will have been waiting for 2 hours up the time when we arrived to pick them up. So here the future perfect of the verb will have been and plus the present participle of the main verb plus ing, waiting. I will have been working on this project for 3 years by the time I finish it. The same applies here, right? And let's see how to frame negative form using this future perfect continuous tense. It's very simple. The structure is the subject plus will plus not plus have been plus verb plus ing. Remember that in spoken English, most speakers will contract will plus not like won't. They will not have been practicing long by then. They won't have been practicing long by then. Here will not have been practicing, and here won't. It's a contraction we have used. And let's see how to frame question using this future perfect continuous tense. In order to use this tense in the question form, the structure will look like this: will plus subject plus have been plus ing, the positive form, right? And the negative, won't plus subject have been plus verb plus ing. Remember, whenever you are making the question form and the tenses, the verb comes first, followed by the subject. Will they have been working all day when we see them? So here, will, the verb comes first, followed by the subject, and then have been working. The same for negative form with contraction. Won't they have been doing their homework for a few hours by then? So won't comes first, followed by the subject, then have been doing. Got it? Let's focus more on the question form. When we want to ask questions using this tense, we follow the specific structure, right? Like WH question word plus will plus subject plus have been plus verb plus ing. Since this tense is all about duration, the most common question word used is how long, because we are usually asking questions about the length of time something will have been happening. Examples: how long will they have been driving by the time they arrive? How long will we have been writing the exam for when we finish it? Notice how each of these questions focuses on the length of time an action will have been happening before a specific future point. And when it comes to time references, this tense revolves around time. Certain time expressions are almost always used to indicate the duration. The most common ones are by the time, for. Let's see how they work. She will have been working there for 3 years in September. The time expression is for here. When I finish this course, I will have been studying for a whole year. So here we are using the same time expression for. They will have been living in that for house for 10 years by the time they move. So here by the time, and we are using for also. So with each sentence, the emphasis is on the length of time the action has been taking place before another future moment. Now it's time for us to practice. Pause your video, take your pen and paper, ready for the practice. Now your job is to change these sentences into future perfect continuous tense. Are you ready? Let's start. They practice their performance for hours. They will be so tired. We packing all day and will be so hungry. I live in this apartment for 5 years. By the time I move out, she walked every day for 2 weeks at the end of her trip. I know you will crack it very easily. When you're done, you can move on to our next slide. Let's check your answers. They will have been practicing their performance for hours. They will be so tired. So here, practicing, we are just, changing into will have been practicing. We will have been packing all day and will be so hungry. So will have been packing. I will have been living in this apartment for 5 years. By the time I move out, will have been living. She will have been walking every day for 2 weeks at the end of her trip. Will have been walking. Now let's practice the negative structure. We have given few of the sentences and few of the question forms. It's your turn to change these into negative structure. Are you ready? Pause the video, read the questions, and then try to answer perfectly. When you are done, you can move on to our next slide. Are you ready? Now, let me read it for you. She worked all weekend, so I'm sure she will feel rested. I live in my hometown for 10 years. When I go back to visit, isn't that crazy? So here's the question form. So try to change that into negative structure. They practice for 3 hours when we arrive. He danced for 2 years by the time he returns to the dance academy. They work in the same office for 2 years. I cook for long by the time dinner is ready. So, how did you do that? Let's check the answers. She won't have been working all weekend, so I'm sure she will feel rested. So, won't have been working, the contraction. I won't have been living in my hometown for 10 years when I go back to visit. Isn't that crazy? So, won't have been living. They won't have been practicing for 3 hours when we arrive. Won't have been practicing. He won't have been dancing for 2 years by the time he returns to the dance academy. They won't have been working in the same office for 2 years. I won't have been cooking for long by the time dinner is ready. Let's review. So, future perfect tense is used to talk about the duration of action in time, how long something will have been happening for by a specific point in time. And the structure is subject plus will have been plus verb plus ing. Most often we use time expressions such as for, by the time. Few examples are given here. The restaurant will have been running for decades by the time it closes. She will have been traveling for 3 years by the time she finally moves her home. Mastering this tense will help you sound more fluent and precise, especially when discussing durations of ongoing actions in the future. Now, go ahead and experiment with it. How long will you have been practicing this tense before you completely master it? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Kindly like, share, and subscribe for more English tips. See you in the next video. Bye bye.